Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Good evening, everybody. If everybody be so kind to turn off your cell phones at this time, please. And there will be no recording or taking pictures during this forum, please. Thank you very much. Turn that down a little bit loud. Thank you. And please hold any questions until the end. We will open up for questions and answers right after all of our speakers. Give you a couple more minutes to turn off your phone. Thank you. The purpose and intent for this forum is to bring accurate information concerning the sale of the YDC property to Higher Educational Services in New Jersey. A lot of concerns and rumors and questions throughout the community that requires answers. Tonight, most of those questions we hope will be answered by the end of the evening. By no means are we here to discriminate a race or religion. Western Pennsylvania is a great melting pot. We have in this room, we have Italians and Irish, Polish, Syrians, Lebanese, African Americans, and the list goes on. So this is not about trying to prohibit a particular race from entering our county, but we have the right to know who crosses our borders and what their purpose and intent is for coming. Howard has not been given a clear purpose of usage of the YDC properties. Questions that have emerged have been, was the sale of the property invalid? Was it properly advertised? The president of HIRA made 2 bids on the property. Is that legal? We are being told that HIRA lost their nonprofit status as a result of not filing annual financial reports. Therefore, do they have the financial credibility necessary to take over the 145-acre complex? And the list of questions goes on, and yes, we all have a right to know. That's why we're here this evening. The citizens of our county have asked our local and state officials to do their due diligence to get the answers and to make a complete and thorough investigation of HIRA. And they are doing just that, I promise you. I wish right now to thank our elected officials for taking a stand for the people of our great community, because if you don't take a stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I wish to thank them at this time for what they're doing on behalf of our community. Protecting the people and the properties of Orange County is essential. What makes this region great? It's the people of Western Pennsylvania that make this region so great. Western Pennsylvania is a great place to raise families. It's a great place to start a business. It's a great place to live. I have deep roots here myself, born and raised here. My ancestors are early settlers. We had the first stagecoach stop. We had the first hotel here. I have deep roots. I love this city like many of you. I have a business, the second oldest flower shop in America. It's the oldest business in downtown Newcastle. I have a great family. I have a beautiful wife that's with me tonight. I have children and grandchildren. I love this community. And we have a right to protect, guard our community, and make sure that whatever comes into our city will benefit the city. And today present in the room are the Anayas, Jess and Loretta, who came to Newcastle from California to start their business, a health and wellness center. He's of Mexican descent. They came here with a vision, a dream, and a great plan. Along with us are the Paxots. The Paxots came to Newcastle from Virginia to start their business and to administrate this studio. They're of Latino descent. And they came for the purpose of succeeding, of building and growing their family. Because it was a great place to raise their family, they saw the opportunity to succeed right here in Newcastle. We all desire to see this region become a place where dreams come true. Together we must continue to create and preserve the environment of Newcastle and surrounding areas that are conducive to to inviting families like the Anayas and the Paxots to come and join us as we change the landscape of our region. Our president campaigned with a great slogan, "Let's make America great." I think that's good, but I think we must make America good before it's great. We want good things if we're going to have great things. We have a really good culture in Western Pennsylvania that must be preserved. Yes, Newcastle may be an economically disadvantaged community, but we cannot fill the void with just anyone or anything. We have to know what they're coming for and what their plans are. We really need right now real economic revitalization. We're at a place right now that we have to look to our future, because if we don't leave a better world for our children and our children's children, we as adults have really failed. Therefore, we are asking our governor, our senator, House of Representatives, our mayor, county commissioners, and the Shenango Township supervisors to continue to do their due diligence and to work synergistically to protect our people and properties. We have been economically disadvantaged way too long. We have a community that's been robbed by the pride of authorship, the esteem of ownership, and the economic benefit of product manufacturing. Today we have two men present here that desire to bring their businesses to Newcastle. What a great place to start a business. We have Mr. Sumner at McDaniel with us, and Mr. Glenn Thomas. And Mr. Glenn Thomas, he wants to bring Regulus Energy. It will create over 60 jobs in Newcastle, starting at $55,000 a year with benefits. I think those are pretty good jobs for Newcastle. Also, we have Mr. McDaniel. He has a plan that he would like to bring a business development center right here in Newcastle. These are the kind of things that we need to see come to Newcastle. Our first speaker today is Representative Aaron Bernstein. I personally want to thank him here publicly for his passion, tenacity, and hard work in this manner. This is not even in Mr. Bernstein's district, but he has taken this as a personal assignment, and I'd like to thank you for that. At this time, Representative Bernstein.
Thank you so much, and Mark, thank you for putting this event on to bring the community together on this extremely important event. Let me be clear, I'm not happy of why we're here today, but I am happy that we are here. And I want to expand a little bit about that. See, strong communities step up, and strong communities step up when there's an issue that they're concerned about. And when there's an issue that they're concerned about, they rally behind a cause, they drive to the root of the issue, and then they work tirelessly to find out a solution to that problem. And I would share with you that tonight, with so many people that are here today, as well as the hundreds and hundreds of phone calls that we've received, both Representative Sonata and I, and the letters, and the emails, and the Facebook messages, this community is one that will drive through this problem, and we will work together and exit stronger. My goal tonight, I want to do three things this evening. First and foremost, I want to walk you through what we know. So I think it's important to understand what we know today about the situation that exists with HIRA and the YDC facility. The second thing is I want to talk about what we've done. And I will tell you that you have a group of people that you've elected, regardless of where you are, that work absolutely tirelessly on this issue. Representative Sonata and I talked to Chris a lot, by the way. I've known him for a couple of years. But we've talked about this a lot, and we're always working extremely hard on this, as well as with Senator Vogel, working with having communication with the city of Newcastle, though it isn't right in the city of Newcastle, and Shenango Township, as well as for the commissioners. You need to understand what we've done so far. And then we have to talk about what we don't know and what we're still going to work to find out. Not just us up here, but you folks out there as well. I want to be clear that this region is accepting of people from every religious background and every race. I think if you look around the room to your right or left, young and old, especially here in Western PA, we all have a little bit of a different complexion than the person to your right or left. But the veil of secrecy that Higher Educational Group is operated under has caused confusion and concern. So let's talk about what we know. What we know to be factual is this, that HIRA won the bid for YDC at a bid of $400,000. The other thing we know is that HIRA has completed all the paperwork in accordance with Pennsylvania statute. To this date, as it deals with that bidding process, HIRA has done everything the exact way in a legal sense that they should have. That's important to understand. This sale is currently under review by the Attorney General's office. And that is typical in the way that this operates through the bidding process, and now it's in the review process by the Attorney General. If this process moves forward and is signed off and okayed by the Attorney General, HIRA will have 5 days to pay from the point that it is declared acceptable. We'll have 5 days to pay the additional $32,000. They've already made an $8,000 payment. The $32,000 will bring them up to the 10%. At that point, there will be 60 days in which they have to close. They would need to then pay the remaining $360,000. So I think it's important to understand the process, because I know that it's complex, right? I think Representative Sonata and I, we needed to learn this process and understand it, and we've done just that. So that's step number one. I also want to share some other things that we know to be true. The sale price for HIRA raises significant skepticism on my part. And in a recent public document, they were shown to have $41,000 in annual revenue on one employee. So think about this for a moment. If you were a company that had $40,000 in revenue and one employee, and then you were to purchase a $400,000 building, that would raise skepticism and concern. That's one of the things that we know to be true. Approximately $40,000 in revenue, one employee is listed by their public documents, and that's important for us to understand as we move forward. The next thing that we know is that in 2014, New Jersey, I would call it not a conservative bastion, revoked HIRA's nonprofit status. So their nonprofit status was revoked by the state of New Jersey. This was revoked because they failed to file their paperwork on 2 years in a row. So for an organization to relocate to a place like this, a business to relocate to a place like this, it causes me great concern if they're not able to fill out simple paperwork correctly. It leads me to question the authenticity of the organization who won the bid on this property. I know you folks have walked in today, and you should have a packet that you've walked in on. You can view that revoking of the nonprofit status, and that's on page 6, 7, 8, 9, 6 through 9. And by the way, it's 1, 2, right? So one side is 1, the second side is 2, so you can view that. We also know that when a nonprofit group purchases a large property that can be developed into a taxable entity, the community does not see revenue. And I want to bring a particular place up to relate it to this. Who in here has heard of South Point near Pittsburgh? Anybody? Okay. So a lot of folks don't know this, but Pennsylvania previously owned several mental health hospitals. They were state-owned mental hospitals. South Point was a mental hospital. That is what the facility was. A lot of folks don't know that. That was developed in a very positive way for business and for opportunity that now, you could argue in Western Pennsylvania, is probably one of the, if not the, strongest development opportunities that has happened. So it's not like to put a development opportunity in there would be a pie-in-the-sky idea. It's something that there's a direct model for and something that we could absolutely pursue. Next, I want to talk about what we've done. And when I say we, I really mean this is not me. Trust me, this is a team effort by the folks that are sitting here. A letter was sent by Representative Sonata, myself, and Senator Vogel on June 7th that outlined the concerns for the winning bid. At that point, remember, they hadn't completed the paperwork of HIRA. If you look at your packet on page 1 and then on the back, page 1 and 2, that is the letter that was sent by the senator and representative and myself. We talked on there, and I'm not going to go through every single component of it because we gave this for you. Chris and I put this together for you to take home. But we talked about the inability to potentially handle it financially. and we talked about some of the significant concerns that we have. From that letter, on June 13th in Senator Vogel's office, we had a meeting with Representative Sonata, Senator Vogel, and myself. The Secretary of the Department of General Services was in that meeting, as well as his staff, as well as a senior member staff from Governor Wolf's team. During that meeting, we discussed the concerns of the first letter. Remember, at that point, this was all the data and the information that we had. So, face to face, we talked about the governor, it talked to the governor's team, and we talked to the Department of General Services, who at that point is the group that accepts the bids. HIRA later, I believe that was on Tuesday. You check your calendar, but I believe it was on Tuesday. Following that meeting, HIRA completed the remainder of the paperwork to continue with the process. So another letter was sent from Representative Sonata, Senator Vogel, myself. In this point, talk about Lawrence County and Western Pennsylvania coming together. The commissioners of Lawrence County signed on to that, as well as the supervisors in Chenango. And on June 20th, we sent the letter, and that will be on pages 3 and 4. And we went into significant more depth in that letter that talked about some of the greater issues that we had as it dealt with HIRA purchasing the former YDC facility. The other thing I would share with you is we have received information and documentation related to national security. That information is not something at the state level that we deal with in any way, shape, or form. That information has been sent directly over to Congressman Mike Kelly's staff, and then he forwards that on to the appropriate authorities. So I know a lot of folks have asked me that question. I wanted to share that right out of the gate. Any information that was sent to us, we've immediately forwarded that over, and Senator Vogel's office has been the liaison for that, so I thank him for that. We also continue to speak regularly with Governor Wolf's team and the Department of General Services on a nearly daily basis on this issue. So we are updated every single step along the way in what happens. The last thing I want to talk about is what we want to know, and this I think may be the most important. I think the cloudiness that's surrounding this is troubling and really frightening in some ways, and I understand that. Myself and other representatives, the media and residents, we have attempted to contact HIRA through phone as well as through letter. And I want to be clear, in a democracy, anyone has the right to buy property. So we need to understand that out of the gate. But the current bid winner has failed to respond to any communication, and we are unsure of their proposed use of this property. This lack of dialogue has caused an added confusion and high frustration for our residents here in this area. The second thing is, upon review of many of the locations listed as a primary place of business for HIRA and other related companies, one is shown to be an apartment. As a reminder, $40,000, one employee. The other locations are shown to be addresses without buildings. This is peculiar and doesn't add up to the purchase of a 150-acre property. The longer we go without answers, the more antagonistic this process becomes. And so many times I've heard, and trust me, I've received phone calls, emails, and sometimes in some not nice words, but it is not xenophobic or racist to ask questions about an out-of-state national group that's moving to our community. It is not closed-minded, but it does show concern of our residents. And it's because we are not naive to the front page of the New York Times or the London Daily Telegraph. Not having facts, which I and the folks here will continue to work to uncover, will raise skepticism by the day. Tonight, you're going to hear from a couple people that are going to talk to you. This is actually in Representative Sonata's district, and mine's right across the border. So I'm very happy to partner with him on this issue. You're going to have the opportunity to ask questions. And I'm a big believer that when you elect folks like us, we stand here and we answer the questions until you're done asking the questions, and that's what I'm willing to do and will do. I'll answer every single one of those questions to the best of my ability. There's not one question that's off limits, so there may be some things that we may not be able to answer because we may not know the answer to those questions. And you deserve every answer and every detail that we know. I look forward to your questions later. Thank you so much.
Next, Representative Chris Sonata.
Thank you, Aaron, for pointing out all the facts, the things which we've done. As he said, Shenango Township is my district. I'm in my 23rd year in the legislature, and I've seen many things over the years. We've gone through different ups and downs. And when we look at this whole process, it all comes down to the process, beginning with DGS, how they disregard state property. And when you look at, what has to happen and how it has to happen. I mean, the whole process has been very disappointing, actually, because we weren't notified once the bids were sold. We actually read it in the newspaper. And usually the process is you get a courtesy phone call. And that's the process. And it's a little disturbing in how it happened. But, we have to put this in perspective because it does involve our community. Any potential new business that comes to our community, we want to welcome them. The township supervisors, the county commissioner, the mayor, the legislative delegation. That's what we want to do. And what's happened here is we've had no communication from day one. And when we look at it and say, that they accept the bid, that was one day after the bids were sealed. And then we started doing some digging and doing some research and trying to find out about the company. We tried to reach out to the company, and I think that's the message here. And to this day, we would still like to talk to the company because we want to know, what are your plans? What do you want to do? Are you a nonprofit or are you a profit? What plans do you have for the facility? Do you have the financial wherewithal to be able to develop that property? The bid price of $400,000. It originally was $2 million. Then it went down to $875,000. Then it went down to $300,000 because nobody was bidding on it. Because there are some issues on the property. There are a few buildings that are said to have asbestos. And when that happens, it takes financial wherewithal to rectify it, get it fixed, and get it done. So these are questions that need to be answered because whatever goes in there, we want to make sure, are they going to be creating jobs? And that's always the big question when a new business comes to town. There's 145 acres there. And Aaron pointed out some very good facts, what this whole process has transpired from our initial letter, which we sent a couple weeks ago, and then our meeting, we sent the letter on Thursday, and we actually met, as he said, with the governor's office and DGS the following Tuesday, and Secretary Topper was there. We expressed some of our concerns, a lot of our concerns with the process and how things are going. We couldn't say a whole lot about the meeting until after Thursday at 5 o'clock when we found out that they did sign the agreement. Up until then, if they don't sign the agreement, it's void. Then it goes to the next highest bidder. That's how the process works. So that's where we're at right now. It's at the Office of Inspector General. That's within the confines of the governor's office. Our letter, which we had sent actually on on Tuesday, is there, and we have the county commissioners, all three signed, and the 3 township supervisors from Shenango. We want to show a united force. These are the questions we would like to have answered. I mean, that's the important question. We want questions answered. We are not making this any more than that. Answers are important because there's a lot of fear and concern in our community. I get phone calls, emails, messages, and I try to call people back when they send it to me. And I'm trying to explain where we are where we need to go, and how the process is going to work. But there's a lot of fear in our community. And those fears need to be resolved. And that's not going to happen until HIRA contacts us and lets us know what are the plans. What are you planning on doing? I mean, it has brought a level in this community I haven't seen in my 23 years in office. I've never seen something like we've seen the last 2 weeks just because of the unknown. That's the problem, it's the unknown. And we're just asking questions. That's our job. Because what happens, a lot of people get confused on the process. Let me say this, and I know I have a lot of my Shenango residents here. The Shenango Township supervisors have nothing to do with this. It's not their property. They can't say yes or no. The county commissioners have nothing to do with this. It's not their property. They can't say yes or no because people are getting confused. They're, saying Shenango Township Supervisor, the county. No, it's not. It's that the state owns the property. The legislative delegation. We don't have a vote on this. This isn't something that goes through the legislature. This is under the aspects of the executive branch and Department of General Services. They have a procedure of how to sell property. We have the ability to express our views. What you tell us, we tell them, and we express our views of what our concerns are, and that's what we're at. That's what we're all doing. We're doing it as a team. Starting with our supervisors from Shenango, and I've talked to them many times over the last 2 weeks. They have concern. They've reached out to us, and I've reached out to them because we're all on the same team. Talk to the county commissioners, the same thing. Our legislative delegation with Aaron and Senator Vogel's, we meet frequently. Cheryl in Senator Vogel's office, and even in my office, put the letters together. I mean, that's the cooperation and coordination you're seeing. 9 people, 3 from the township, 3 from the county, the 3 in Harrisburg, and that's what we need to do. We have to be united. We have to make our points to make sure that what's happening out there is in the best interest of Lawrence County. I mean, that's always been the concern of many people. You want to make sure that the needs are taken care of. And I mean, that's where we are today. The next step is at the Office of Attorney General. The step after that goes to the Attorney General's office. Some of the allegations, some of the things that were said, we're hoping that the Attorney General looks at those things. He looks at those things. If it goes past that, as Aaron has said, it goes back to DGS. They send it to the bidder, which would be HIRA, and they have 5 days to come up with $32,000. If they come up with $32,000, the next step will be 60 days to come up with the other $368,000. It's like a process in buying or selling a house. That's a little more complicated, but that's what we're looking at right here. Now, you have other issues out there that we need, hopefully, to get resolved, and we need that to weigh in on this process. So where it's at right now, I think, is a critical phase of the process with the governor's office and the Office of Inspector General under the governor's office, and also the Attorney General's office, to look at things that are out there. Things that, are they a responsible bidder? That's been the question from day one. And when you look at the facts, with one employee doing $41,000, on paper, it does not look like a viable bidder. It really does not. I mean, if you're buying a house and you go in to see a bank and you bring those numbers in, what do you think the banker's going to do? He's going to laugh at you. But now, wow, look, this is like, you have to get your financing now. What bank in the world is going to give these people $400,000 when you have that? But that's where it's at. So there are a lot of concerns out there, and our job as your elected officials is to try to get answers. That's what we've done for the last 2.5 weeks. 3 weeks since this actually broke. We're going to continue to do this each week, every step of the way, through the whole process. That's what we have to do. We need to stick together as a community and as elected officials. So I want to just stress that point. I think it's very important, and I will praise my locals. The 3 supervisors have been great to work with. The 3 county commissioners have been great to work with. We're all on the same team. I want everyone to understand that. And in politics, sometimes you don't see that. But in Lawrence County, we've always had good relationships, and you put things aside and say, hey, this is what's the most important thing for the community. And I just leave you with our most important thing is to get answers. That's what you need as residents. That's what we need as elected officials. To give you answers to the questions which we have that will make our community better. Thank you.
Josh Konachek is here with us from the Senator's office. Josh, you're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to Dr. Kaufman for hosting us tonight. Just want to say thanks for being here to learn more about the issue. Thanks to Representatives Sonato and Bernstein for explaining everything. I think you got a lot of the facts that I was going to share with you. I won't repeat that. Be another echo. It wouldn't be much new, but thank you guys for explaining all that. I think the most important part right now for us is that of all the concerns we've addressed and all the questions we've had, the Department of General Services and all the other folks we've reached out to, no one has indicated that we've been incorrect. And that's of a concern. So until we hear that, until we hear our facts are incorrect, or until we hear the situation being different, and we get more clarification of what's actually going to be happening at the facility and what the facility is going to be used for, we're going to continue to ask questions, and we're going to continue to listen to you. You all have done a great job of reaching out to us and telling us your concerns and your thoughts, so we thank you for that. I'll take it a little further than Representative Sonato. You never see 9 elected officials working together on an issue. So please believe me when I say we're all together on this. It's great that we're all a team, and then the Township of Shenango has done a wonderful job of taking a lead on this and really getting everybody together and making sure we're all on the same page. So thank you all. I won't take up too much more of your time. But if you have questions, we're here to listen, and we're here to talk to you. So thank you again.
Said the supervisors of Shenango Township have been doing their due diligence and working really hard on this. I've spoke with them several times. I'm very impressed with how hard they're working. So at this time, Mr. Frank Augustine.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Mark, once again for giving us a chance to do this. I want to say once again, my name is Frank Augustine. I'm chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Shenango Township. With me tonight are my other 2 supervisors. Over here we have Mr. Al Burek and Mr. Russell Riley. And also sitting with them is our solicitor, Mr. Lou Parada. And it's been a very stressful couple weeks for us. Also, Al Burek got married, so add that into everything that we've had. It's been pretty crazy. But we had a meeting on June 8th. Now, this was our regularly scheduled monthly meeting. And that time, we prepared a statement, which we felt, this was not 2 weeks ago, but we felt this time that we needed to make a statement, not only about what we felt about this situation. I mean, we've been talking about this property at every meeting about the potential that it can bring to Shenango Township. So my statement was read on 6/8/17, and I'm going to read that. So you might hear some things that were said before earlier this meeting, but at this time we felt this was very important. The township is aware of the circumstances and the concerns regarding the former YDC site. We wanted to address a few of the township concerns in an effort to answer some of the questions that many of you have raised in recent days. As a township, we feel that the property was undersold, having been previously assessed at $17 million. The assessment was reduced to $3 million in order to attract bids. However, we feel that the sale of the property for $400,000 or roughly 13% of the assessed value, is far below an acceptable price for this property. Additionally, the township is concerned about impact of the sale to a non-profit entity on potential tax revenue from the former YDC site. While the state has provided no information regarding the buyer of this property, public records show that the organization is a non-profit charitable organization. The township is also concerned about the potential for bringing new jobs to the area. The plans for the YDC site are unknown, but the township hopes that any new development will bring long-term, well-paying jobs to the community. Furthermore, the township is concerned with the possibility of potential collusion among the bidders in violation of the non-collusion requirements outlined in DGS's invitation to bid instructions. It has come to the attention of the township that one of the bidders, Mr. Mohammed Asif Kunwar, submitted an individual bid while also being listed as the president and CEO of the winning bidder, Higher Educational Services. The non-collusion affidavit specifically requires a sworn statement that the prices in the bid were arrived at independently and without consultation, communication, or agreement with any other contractor, bidder, or potential bidder. Additionally, the affidavit requires a sworn statement that the price is offered in good faith and not pursuant to complimentary or any non-competitive bid or quote. Mr. Kumar's role as both independent bidder and CEO of the winning bidder raises questions about whether the non-collusion rules have been violated. To be clear, the township concerns have nothing to do with religion, race, or national origin. Shenango Township welcomes peoples of all races, ethnicities, and religious backgrounds. Our concern is the state has provided very little information about the proposed sale. Searches of public available records have revealed an organization with 2 employees, no assets, and no revenue. Accordingly, the township has reached out to the Department of General Services for more information about the prospective buyer and the plans for the YDC site. To date, the DGS has not been forthcoming with information on the issue, so we urge you to reach out to the DGS and governor's office as well. So, wow, that was a lot to say. But no, once again, I just want to tell you, I mean, I knew the gentleman over here, right here. I just got a chance to meet Mr. Kaufman. But believe me, we're working as hard as we can to help out and do whatever we can. And the issues that we mentioned, Shenango Township is doing the best, whatever we can do. So thank you for letting me speak here tonight. Thank you.
With us this evening is Bruce Leonardi. He represents Act for America. Please welcome him.
Well, it's nice to be in Newcastle. I'm from Duquesne, Pennsylvania, and when I grew up in high school, we had some winning basketball teams. And we knew the road to Harrisburg went through Newcastle. So I'm glad to be here. Now, these gentlemen talked about many of the details of this deal, and they approached it from the legal aspects, and that's very important. But there's one common thing they said, and that is, we don't know what their plan is. Well, I have an idea. I'm from an organization called Act for America, and that organization has over 500 chapters in the United States, over 750,000 members. I'm chapter leader of Pittsburgh, Act for America Pittsburgh, and the organization, the national organization founded by Brigitte Gabriel, keeps us aware of trends and issues that are important to American communities. That's our goal. Our interest is to preserve and protect American communities. Amen. So that gives us a lot of information about what's going on out there, all across the country. I'm updated all the time as to, you know, what's the action, what's going on. And my response to what the plan is this. One of the most recent trends in our country is the refugee resettlement plan. There it is. think I know the plan.
There you go.
Amen.
The plan is that a nonprofit organization become a immigration refugee contractor. As a refugee contractor, they can bring in thousands of refugees if they have the facility to house them.
Whoa.
Well, the YDC is the perfect facility. And I'm just here to, send out a warning. I'm going to be Paul Revere, okay? And I want you to know that this could be coming. And you need to organize, you need to work together, you need to equip your community with the ideas that we have a great community here. And we want to use the homegrown resources of our community. And that can be done. That can be done. Now, CAIR has been mentioned. So I did a little investigation. We like to do reasonable intelligence acquiring. And I found out that CAIR is really a human services organization. And human services bleeds very easily into being a refugee contractor. And so this is the kind of company that we need to, as these people are doing, investigate very clearly. They don't have a plan, they're not telling a plan. I'm saying this could be the plan. And from my experience over watching what's happening in the country and from details from other places, this is one of the plans that could happen. And I'm not trying to, create panic or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is alert you. That's our job in Act for America, to alert American communities to take action, Act for America, so that our communities are preserved as American communities. So I'm here. If you have any questions about Act for America and what we can do to help you get a larger perspective, a national perspective on what's going on, I'd be glad to answer your questions. Thank you.
We have two gentlemen here that are not going to be, we're going to have them speak, but they won't be for time's sake. We're honored to have them. Mr. Sumner Daniel, he is the gentleman who also put a bid on the YDC property. Thank you for coming here tonight. Not knowing the bidding process was going on, the gentleman who's here, Mr. Glenn Thomas from Buffalo, was bringing Regulus Energy to Newcastle. We're excited to have him come to Newcastle and bring his business. Would you let him know? We were taken to the property while the bidding process was going on, but once again, it had not been announced in the Newcastle News, so we did not know that was taking place. And he had looked at the property also. But I would like to, after the meeting is over, for these two gentlemen to stay around. If you have questions for them, they can share what their plans were. When they both shared them with me, I was very excited. And we're honored that both of you men would consider bringing your businesses and doing what you intend on doing in Newcastle. Thank you for that consideration. And at this time, I want to turn it back over to the representatives. They have some questions. If you have questions at this time, they'll be more than glad to answer.
Chris,
Yeah.
this is incorrect, okay? I worked in YAC 16 years. Past union president out there asked me, 200 employees, okay? We have over 450 out there. The first layoff, we lost about 236 employees out there. At the first layoff. In the second layoff, when they closed it, we lost the rest, okay? Now, going from the bottom of the pay scale to the top of the pay scale, for an average employee out there, about $50,000 a year, plus the benefit package. Place had never been closed. Now, a political assassination. We can't afford to let this thing go down the tubes right now. You know, number one, Pennsylvania's not in the, what do you want to call it, property management, we want to call it. They should have hired a company someplace, advertise this here, nationwide, put it in a Wall Street Journal, something like that. You have companies all over the United States here would like to move up this part of the country, open up a branch or something like that. They could go up $10, $15 million for it. Maybe 200, 600 jobs. That wasn't taken care of. Whoever's in Harrisburg ought to be fired.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Yay. Yes.
It's hard to talk right now.
Yeah.
I'm not a good speaker. I'm to the point. I'm blunt. You know, that's how I am. Me and Chris have arguments in the past like that. YDC, you just stay off the as far as you need to go on tax rolls, okay? Let me get jobs out here. I've talked to people that want to come to this meeting because it's Schneider Township. Whoa, this is Beaver County, it's Lawrence County, it's Butler County, all this here, okay?
Amen.
Out there, right now, that place being closed, their electric bill is about $25,000 a month. Electric bill being closed, it's all electric out there. When the place is open, it's about $50,000 a month. How are they going to pay for this here with an income of $40,000 a year? Okay, plus your maintenance out there and stuff like that. You know, I told you, you need to get this meeting here and be here in numbers. Okay, our numbers is we have each have a vote. Okay, if Wolf don't do the job for us, he ain't making next election. That's how I feel about it.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
And you talk about Trump, you know, with the swamp. Well, Pennsylvania with the Everglades. We need to do our job here as a group of people stick together, okay? I don't want to hear it can't be done. It can be done, okay?
Amen.
So let's all here. Let's put this together, okay? Thank you, Donnie.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can, because of, we want to get as many questions, answer as many questions as possible. Let's keep it to questions, okay? Not a lot of comments, so we can hear from a lot of you, okay? Thank you. Yes. Next one.
I have one simple question,
Yeah.
and it's about all of our questions. Does this facility have, does HIRA, are they legally required to answer any of our questions?
No, they bought the property, probably not.
They're not?
No.
Does anyone really expect them to answer any of our questions?
Nope.
It's a common courtessy. I mean,
I
any
understand-
business
I
that would come
understand
into
it's
a
common
community,
courtesy.
any respectable business coming into a community would want to meet with their elected officials, the township super, the commissioners, legislators, and tell us what their plans are. That's our questions to them. By law, are you required? No. If you're selling a house, do you have to tell the person you're selling to what you're going to do with it? I mean, it's, I use the house analogy, but it comes back to that according to what the laws are. But I'm saying is, we need them to do that. That's what our question is. We want them to do that. What's that? Oh, sure.
As far as the bidding process, they say they had to pick the highest bidder. 'Cause I've been a contractor for years, and I can tell you, it's the low bid that wins, but they don't necessarily have to take the low bid. That's number one. That's something before, but really, I mean, what it comes down to is, what if the leader of ISIS was supposed to bid in for $1 or something like that, right? They can accept that bid. The state of Pennsylvania, I mean, that's pretty irresponsible, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'll walk you through the process if that's okay, and the way that it actually functions. So, typically, what transpires with a building through the bidding process and the way that it currently exists today. And I'm just sharing with you the way it exists, not the way if I were king for a day, I would make it exist. So there's a baseline in which they say the minimum bid is X, or the minimum bid is Y, right? So in this case, it happened to be $300,000. So anybody out there could make a bid of X or higher. So at this point, it was $300,000 or higher. At this point, it was $300,000 or higher. Before, it was a higher amount, correct? So what happens is, through the process, the bidder, the winning bidder, needs to meet each and every obligation as they go through. Part of that process right now is where it's in the Inspector General, the Attorney General's office, in which they're doing an evaluation of all the information that has been provided to them. One of the things that we've done, and by the way, I'll share with you a lot of it. It's not just Representative Sonata and I and Senator Vogel and the commissioners and as well as the folks in Chenango. The work that additionally has happened is from people like you, right? You've sent in information and we've passed that on and we've done that. We're not investigators, but we're doing the best that we can with the tools that we have. So we're providing that information to them and we're hopeful that they take that into account.
Well, don't they have to do due diligence before they accept the bid?
Yes.
We regularly receive updates from the governor's office, press releases, and from your offices. Upon calling the governor's office, they said a press release was sent to the Beaver County Times. I was wondering, was there a reason that no press release was sent out to Beaver County, the Elwood Ledger, the Newcastle News, Mother Eagle, Sharon, Herald, or myself, since I received updates when they were talking about the state retirement system. I've received updates when they're talking about the second Sunday, of the month to visit the governor's house. They said they only had to notify one piece of media. Does that mean they could have notified somebody in Williamsport?
There you go. There you go. That was my problem.
Talking about a press release on the sale of YDC. What press release you talking about? They send out releases all the time.
I'm sorry, to announce the bid. To announce the bid, Chris, that should have gone out to the general area in which that was located. The Department of the Resources that put these out will send us, 2 days later, they sent us, after it came out that Hira had bid on the property, 2 days later it came out that they were selling some cars and some computers and office stuff and what have you. Why didn't that department notify any news in this county?
That's the DGS. They advertised it for 2 months online. These are what their guidelines are.
But how come they send it out to every? How come they send out?
That's an answer you'd have to get from DGS and the governor's office. But I'm saying
And they won't return our call.
I'm telling
Amen.
you that they don't contact us and let us know when that was happening as well. I mean, the process was there. The process has gone on for 2.5 years, and I'm saying is for 2 months it was on the internet sites and.
Chris, I'm not picking on you, but they're picking and choosing when they're going to send it out. On what property they send it out, and then on what property they don't send it out. If you send it out on a car, you should send it out on a facility as big as one.
This is where the whole problem started. When I heard about the bid.
Hold on.
Okay. I'm sorry. Shirley Sullivan. The big one.
By the way, I could hear you without the microphone. I wasn't going to say that. You said it first.
When I heard about this bid, I called Andrew at the real estate office, and I asked him why this was not announced in the Newcastle News. His reply was, we only have to advertise it in one newspaper. I said, oh, really? Where did you advertise it? He said, the Beaver County Times. I said, I'm not traveling to the Beaver County Times to find out what's going on in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Okay?
So I think, yeah, so let me address that. You're right. Right?
So this is what we should be talking about.
Yeah.
It needs to be null and void.
Yep.
This governor needs to null and void this. And we need to have a whole new bidding process set up. We're just going all around the mulberry bush here.
Yep.
And nothing is going to happen. And you know what they told me at the governor's office? Andrew answered the phone. You know what he said? Call back in 2 months. The governor's busy. I said, you must think we're from preschool. You know what? We have a few rodeos under our belt. And guess what? We're from Lawrence County, and this is not going to happen. We want to know what's going to happen at the YDC.
So let me address your question.
Thank you.
You're right.
No.
Okay? You're right. In the process there is flawed. The process there is broken. What they did was not good management, whether it's for that or cars or anything else. Let's be clear about that. And I will share with you that in our conversation with the DGS, with Senator Vogel, Representative Sonata, and myself, we talked about that. We talked about those types of things, and I'll share with you that they did not give us an answer on why that wasn't done in the Newcastle News. Those are all questions, and there's no magic bullet here. I want to be clear. There is no because that happened, the sale is null and void. That's not happening. There's no because this happened, the sale is null and void. What this is about bringing, I'm no lawyer. Trust me, I don't even like him. So, sorry, Lou Rallies over there. I'm in trouble. But it's about building a preponderance of evidence, okay? To make the case of why this situation happened. It's about saying protocol may or may not have been followed, and let's dig deep and understand every single aspect of that. Because let's find out if protocol was followed. I can't say that it was or it wasn't, but we can bring those things to the attention and determine, Shirley, whether or not it was. Then it's about discussing the issues that we talked about earlier with CAIR. And it's about understanding every single aspect of that and finding out if that's a reason. There's no magic bullet here, and I want to be clear, but it is about gathering all the information and all the data that we have and can put together in order to make that case on what's best for our community. And I hope that makes sense.
Makes sense. Let's get it done.
Okay, my name is Vivian, and I heard Chris talking a couple times about they're waiting to hear. They're waiting to hear from them and what they're going to say and everything. How long do we have to wait?
Yeah.
And then I heard part of the question answered back there, and they said, well, they don't have to say anything. Well, I want to know, who do I talk to? Am I going to Washington, D.C. tomorrow night? Or what? I am tired of, I appreciate everything that everybody has done. I really do. I appreciate everything that everybody's looking, but I haven't found any answer of what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to talk to this man when I'm done.
We did a letter 2 weeks ago. We did one this week, and we're going to do one to the Attorney General. We throw that out there to say we would like to hear from them. We've said it from day one. We'll say it next week and the week after. They don't have to respond to us, but we're not sitting back waiting to hear from them. We are planning another letter to the Attorney General in another week or two once we see what happens with the Office of Inspector General. But my point is, from HIRA's perspective, if I was a business, I would want to talk to people. That's what we're saying. So we're not waiting to people know where they're right to go out.
Yep. Let me ask you these questions.
Yeah.
Here's what the people are asking here. You keep saying to them, okay, we're waiting for a plan, but then you said they don't have to give you the plan.
Yeah.
So we don't need to wait. We may never hear from them.
Yeah.
I think what the people are saying here, we have to expedite this. Forget about the plan. We know what the plan is.
Yeah. Amen.
And let's roll up our sleeves, let's get in the governor's office, and let's get it done. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Guys, hang on. Just do me a favor, if you could. And like I told you, I'll stay here all night and answer questions. Just one at a time, and don't yell over. And I'm happy to answer questions as long as you want, honestly. But let me address that, Mark, because I think that's important. So I want to talk about what that process is. And what we're doing with that process is this. We're having the consistent conversation with where HIRA is in that process that they're going through. So we had that original conversation with DGS, okay? Now, it's moved on to that Attorney General area, right? So we're providing as much evidence as humanly possible that we're taking, gathering, and providing that there. there are multiple steps that HIRA needs to go through in order to fulfill their commitment in order to buy this. So what we're doing is,
We don't want them to go through. I don't need to interrupt you. But
Please don't. Please don't. Just let me finish. What we're doing is at every single step along the way, we are bringing to the authority that it is currently under. And right now, it's under the governor, and it's under the attorney general. And we're providing as much data, information, whatever we can do at that point in time, to use mine from before, the preponderance of evidence, right? We're gathering as much data and providing them to them in order to ask them, and we have asked them, to step in and stop this transaction from moving forward. We could not, let me be clear, we're with you. We could not be more clear on what we've asked for. That being said, this isn't something that comes before the legislature and we vote, right? It's a different scenario. So it's about us providing and using any influence that we have there with the governor and with his team in order to sway them and the people that make those decisions in order to side with what we believe are the people here in Lawrence County.
Aren't they Americans?
Please just wait. Just wait, and if we'll get to every question that we can. Happy for the next.
We have a question here.
Yes, I have a question. We have a question here. Is this strictly a federal?
Hold on. I think they're on the mic.
My name is Lisa DeSantis, and I'm a Shenango Township resident. And I'm still finding any one good reason why we would want this facility, and I still can't find one. But my question to you is, have any of you filed a right-to-know request on the governor, on the general, what do you call it, the General Department of General Services, or anyone in high-up place?
We met with the governor's staff and we met with DGS.
On any and all emails, any correspondence, anything that's been written in a paper trail?
On what evidence?
On HIRA. Just Google clear words, HIRA.
I mean, our staff did all that, and that's the information we got to provide, and that's actually, we're the ones who gathered the information to send to DGS and the governor's office asking for answers to those questions. It was our office that did it. We didn't get it from them. We had to do it, and Ian actually went intensively on the internet, and he made phone calls and everything else to try to get that information. And we're going to continue to look. I mean, we monitor emails because we're trying anything we can find on them, and we forward it to the appropriate authorities.
He doesn't understand.
No.
So let me share with you. No, let me just take it just so you're clear. Right to know. Emails are not subject to right to know. It's one of the the right to know is a very narrow scope that would not necessarily be applicable in this case. But I understand what you're saying. I think the different yes, we've asked a lot of those questions and gathered that data and forwarded it to them. If that answers. Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Baird. I'm from actually Greensburg.
Thank you for your service.
I came out here. Thank you.
Yes,
I came out here because this is something that I believe affects everyone. I just moved back from Texas. I moved there beginning of February to open a facility for veterans with PTSD, south of Houston. We were turned down because the zoning in that area wasn't established for that. Before we could even make one step, we had to give them a reason why we were going to be there and what our plans were for the zoning for it. It wasn't zoned for that, so they basically shut down before we could do anything. Why isn't that happening here? Is that just a Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
So what happens is through the bidding process, your name again, I'm sorry? Lance. Through that bidding process, it is a very simple, straightforward, and once again, not appropriate in my opinion, but a very straightforward, simple bidding process of the first part, right? We are at step 2 of 10, okay? Step 1 is filling out the bidding paperwork and submitting the bid and paying the 2% of the overall component of it, right? That's where we are in this process. And to get there, now by the way, say they purchase it and they move forward with that, then they would need to adhere to the zoning that is currently in Shenango. and I know Frank, I won't speak for you, but I'm sure that they would, just as they do every other place, they would hold these folks accountable to zoning. If they have buildings and they want to build something, they wouldn't be subject to those types of things. So a little bit of a different process, not one that I'm a huge fan of, but I think it's fair. Listen, I'm calling balls and strikes, right? I'm sharing with you the facts and some of the data, and that's the information.
I just think maybe it would be a lot easier if you, I don't even know how you come up with the laws and bylaws of how this works, but maybe try and change them up a little bit.
I think you're right.
So people need to know what's going there before you can even bid. There's reasons what you're going to do with these properties before you can bid on it.
You're right, and I share with you though, in this component, that wouldn't be applicable in this situation, but moving forward, you're absolutely correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
My name is Spencer Gallagher. I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I've shared it with the appropriate parties. One of the things, though, that really I find disturbing about the whole situation, other than just the fact that they only have one employee and just the fact that they've actually, in the last 5 years, have claimed less than $50,000. I heard Representative Bernstein say that there's $41,000, but in the research that I have acquired, 2 of the last 5 years that they have had less than $50,000 in revenue have actually been less than even $20,000. The 1 year, I believe, was $18,200. And I want to know, there's an issue here. We know for a fact, and it's under a preponderance of evidence, like you said, in a civil case, that's what you need. We know beyond a reasonable doubt in our minds, but for a preponderance for a civil case, that they will have the money. They will get it. There is no doubt in my mind they will have it. You can look at the numbers and say, well, they won't be able to come up with that. They'll get it. They have their connections. Trust me. From what I've been able to ascertain and the information that I've looked at, they've got connections, and they're not good ones either. I'm not going to share them here for my own safety. However, we know for a fact that these individuals have connections to people that are very dangerous for the United States, not just our own community. Come on.
I'd like to respond to that. I'd like to make everyone known of an organization called the NAIT, which is the
Islamic Trust. North American Islamic Trust.
Right. And this is the source to which they will find this money.
Yes.
Everybody, listen, these have to be questions, not comments, please.
Okay.
If you start making comments, we're going to have to interrupt you. This is question and answer time.
I wanted to also make one quick thing too, Mark.
It has to be a question, please.
It is a question. Okay. From what I've also looked at is when it came to the state only putting out the information to one newspaper. In my research, I find it interesting that this group already had bid on a state correctional institution in Crescent. If anybody wants to know where that is, it's out by Gallatin, Altoona area. They lost the bid to a local. So my question is, as again from Mrs. Solomon's view, apparently somebody out there in the local newspaper was notified about this, but it seems interesting that Lawrence County, and I'm going to make this a little bit political, but here's another question for you. When Lawrence County was counted in the election for Trump, Pennsylvania was light blue the whole night. When Lawrence County was counted, it went red. I wonder why they're putting this here. My question is, what are we going to do? How are we going to go about doing it to stop this? Because we don't want to turn into Dearborn, Michigan, and how are you individuals going to stop that?
We're doing what we've laid it out, as Aaron originally told you, everything we have done.
Yes.
Within the confines and the law of the country, the law of Pennsylvania. I mean, that's what we have to follow. We have to follow the law. I mean, you can't, if you have allegations, if you have information, you need to turn it over to the FBI and you turn it over to Homeland Security. I mean, that's what your obligation is, to have information like that, and I would recommend you do that.
We have a question here.
This is directed towards Frank. Frank. Hi, Frank. Can you bring us up this, give us the latest status with the Lawrence Village Plaza. Bring us up to speed if you have any information about that.
Microphone. I don't know if that really.
That has nothing to do with that. Guys, I think just from on legal counsel, I'm not gonna. Yeah, it represents not and I were the only one. I mean,
if there's it was up for sale. I mean, we haven't heard a thing. We don't know anything about it. It's still, the sale has not been completed. We're sure of that.
I think there's a woman right here in the yellow. Ma'am, no, hold on. Right here in the yellow. But other people can't hear.
My question is this strictly a state issue, or could the federal government come in on this?
Yeah.
Because if it's questionable about what we're thinking it is, would the federal government come in and have more pressure, like our federal representatives, the congressmen, and our two senators from Pennsylvania? Do they have more pressure or more power on finding out what this is all about than what you state representatives have? Thank you.
So I'll share with you twofold. So I think it's a two-part. I think the answer is yes and no, and I'll share both sides of it. Number one is from the actual sale of the property. In the process that CAIR is going through, Representative Sanada and I and Senator Vogel, we're working on the state side of that. Now let me share with you this, that the any national security type information that we have received has been sent to Congressman Mike Kelly's office.
Why just Kelly? Why just Kelly?
Yeah, typically you just pick one point of contact for that.
What I'm saying is, this is a state problem. In Pennsylvania, Lawrence County is part of the state of Pennsylvania.
Right.
Okay, why aren't all of our congressmen and our two federal senators, why aren't they all in on the ball? I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, a good question. Her question was, why not reach out to other senators and other representatives at the federal level? In case anybody didn't hear that. I'll share with you typically the way that you have one point of contact, and that congressman, wherever that area is typically that point of contact, and then distributes that information across the board to those that it may be necessary to. And I would tell you that Congressman Kelly and his staff are extremely competent in that.
I'm not questioning his validity, but I'm saying why does it go to one and then he distributes the information to the other representatives? Is that correct?
Yeah, I just think it's the chain. I wouldn't call it chain of command, but it's just the way that operates. Yes, ma'am.
We have a question here.
Lawrence, my question to you guys is that when YDC first closed, you guys came door to door, basically trying to get people to vote for you. You said you were going to bring jobs to the valley, and once you got to where you are, is there any perspectives or anything that you use to prospect businesses to come here? Because it seems to me like with YDC and Lawrence Village Plaza, there's other places that could bring economic value to this community. They're not being prospected around, and we just want to know why you're not out there doing that.
It is happening. It happens all the time. It's not front page of paper, but I mean, from the locals, from the township supervisors in every township, they do their duty. The mayor does his. We work with them. We work with the commissioners. I mean, you get that information out there. And Lawrence County Economic Development, they help market as well as the chamber. So I'm saying we all try to work in tandem to try to recruit and try to bring business in the community. We got good news this week for the city of Newcastle. So I mean, it's one of those things. It's a slow process, and we try to do what we can do. But like as far as the YDC property, when YDC closed, that was 4 years, and that was under Governor Corbin. We were told it was moving out. It wasn't my district at the time, so I didn't get the first phone call. I got the third phone call as a representative in the county, and they told us the buses were pulling away. 3 months earlier, they told us everything was fine out there, and that goes back to the DGS, situation. They don't treat us as you would think, because we don't have a vote on it. If we had a vote on it, they would be giving us all kind of information. But we lobby and we argue with them and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's DGS and executive branch who makes that call. Just like when we dealt with the prison situation, which actually was saved up in Mercer County. That decision is made totally by DGS and the governor's office. And they closed the Pittsburgh prison, and we were spared, actually, the prison up in Mercer. We all signed letters of support for Mercer because a lot of our people are working there, and that was spearheaded by Representative Nesbitt. The way that works, and getting back to your question on Congressman Kelly, it's his district. You've got to work through Congressman Kelly, and then you have others who would want to join with him. But that's why, he would be the point man.
And we have a question here, sir. We have a question here.
What's the question at your low level that you can't get anything done? You say you have to go talk to DJS or whatever. You say to them as if you're not who you are. You're not giving this impression that you have authority for the matter at all.
Yeah, let me address that. So
You couldn't hear the question.
I'm sorry. He said it's like you don't have authority. I'll share with you that there are certain things and different components of the government or whatever that you have authority and a vote on, and other things you don't. Let me give you an example. The budget's coming down the stretch. It's not we're necessarily here to talk about it, but the budget's coming down the stretch, and we have a vote on that. Okay. There are other components that are strictly related to the executive branch, in which you would work hard in the legislative branch in order to leverage anything that you have in order to stop this sale, which is exactly what we're working to do. But DGS, Department of Governmental Services, reports directly to the executive branch without oversight from the legislative branch. So are there things that we can do? Absolutely. You talked about jobs and some of the things we're doing, and Representatives not our districts butt up against each other, and I talk about jobs all the time, and there's some really good things that have happened right in other areas of my district, Slippery Rock, Beaver Falls, Wood City. But that being said, there are things that you do have authority over, and then there are other things that you don't have authority over, but you do have influence, and those are two different things. So you're right, we don't have the authority. I want to be clear. Nobody on this stage or sitting up here has the authority to stop this from happening. But that being said, that doesn't mean that we can't do everything that we can't do everything that we can in our power to influence those that do have authority in order to stop it from it. Well, who has authority on this is DGS, Department of Governmental Services, which reports directly up to Governor Wolf. So it's entirely in the executive branch. Next question.
Yes, sir. I'm David Walters, and it's a two-part question.
Good to see you.
One question. It's two-part. The first part is, does anybody up there actually know what the occupancy variance on that property is right now in the state of Pennsylvania's eyes? That's the first part, because obviously we have a gentleman up here that's here because he might have been interested in purchasing that property.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I think a lot of people don't understand this. Occupancy variance really holds and ties the hands and binds the hands of most purchases on most properties, especially in a commercial level, whether it's nonprofit or it's a profit program. If you're not, Walmart can't necessarily buy that property and use it in the statement that it's, in the position it's in.
Right.
They would have to get a variance. They would have to probably destroy the property and build new under new variance. Therefore, the township and the county itself still holds power over hiring. And see, people need to understand that. We still have power at our local level, regardless of how many people are saying we don't. Now, the second part of that question is, okay, when this property became put up for bid, which I agree with everybody here that, you advertised it out of our county,
yes,
which, first of all, that's our stake.
A lot of folks have, what's your question?
Okay, the question is, can we, because we live in a commonwealth, this is not a state, we live in a commonwealth, which we support the common good in this state, okay? Can we as a community, which already has begun, a petition to stop the sale of this based on it not being the best for our community? See, we live in a commonwealth, and it has to be the common
I understand.
good.
So, I'll address that. So part of the, and there is a petition, by the way, that I know that Mark has put together and that is on his website. So the answer to that is, I think that shows support, and I think that is part of the things that we show those who make the ultimate decision, which currently is in, as we talked before, in the Attorney General's office. That being said, the way state statute and state law reads today, that decision, when that process is followed, they don't run a poll or something and say, hey, what do people here necessarily think? Do I think that they should and that should have significant input? Absolutely. But I want to be clear, does it? The answer right now is no. And listen, I don't always give you the answer that you like, but I will always give you the most straightforward answer that I can possibly give.
You have a question over here? Well, especially since the state attorney general's office practically bankrupted our local community hospital by dragging their feet in almost a year, and it was this close to closing, they owe us a big one. And another issue is, Pennsylvania does have a history. The 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the practicing to make the bomb and to set it off was right in a farm outside of Harrisburg. So there is a precedent of terrorism in Pennsylvania. We're not being hyper or overly critical, and I think the state attorney general's office owes Lawrence County a huge, big one, and they need to really delve into this and not drag their feet like they do with the Jameson Hospital issue. Right now, it seems like the state attorney general is our only hope right now, and I think all the focus should be forced upon them. I think they should be nagged.
Well, right now the focus isn't at the Attorney General, it's at the Office of General Counsel, which is under the jurisdiction of the Governor's office. And the next step would go to the Attorney General's office. They're going to follow the rules of the law. Your scenario dealing with a hospital, that was an antitrust issue, which dealt with competition. And that's where that got hung up for as long as it did, but it was based on competition and non-compete. This is sort of a different issue, but the Attorney General's job is to investigate everything that's out there, and they are, and all these things which we CC the Attorney General on the prior two letters which we sent, they have a copy of everything. The questions we have and things like that, and we also will send the Attorney General, once it actually hits that point, directly at them, say, hey, this is scenario. But if you have a different Attorney General than you had actually under the Jameson, but it's when you look at it, it's going to be based on the facts and the law. It's not, well, we owe them one, so we're going to look at that. That's not how it works. It's actually their job is to focus on the law and the statute, just like the courts have to. That's the law. That's the rules.
Anything for you, Greg?
Glenn Thomas, Regulus Energy. I have a question that the gentleman brought up about.
I called you Greg. I meant Glenn. I'm sorry.
Forgive it. You got the same guy that put two bids in.
Yeah.
Now, from what you said, sir, that that's against the statute of maybe the law or the regulations of Pennsylvania. Is that something that can be drilled into? And my question: do any of you know that that would be an automatic rejection of both bids?
Yeah, good. So if you, and I believe it was in the first letter, and if it wasn't, it was in the second. If not, it was in the email. So take a look at the packet in there. But it did. I believe we did provide that information to them and asked them as part of their evaluation of were things done right. Back to our point where we talked before, right? Every single step and what's the scrutiny that we can put on. So we asked them at that point. It was Department of DGS. Department of General Services, and then we'll do the same thing for the Attorney General. To me, it's about uncovering as many leaks as possible.
So you don't know for sure if that's something that can be definitely thrown out, like they have to follow it and they did it wrong, so they're out.
Yeah, so I have an opinion on that, but I'm not a lawyer, like I said before. And the other thing is I don't give much of my personal opinion. I think my job is operating 62,000 people, and words have meaning. So I want to make sure that we presented that issue to the appropriate people and have asked them to investigate that issue. So absolutely that's been done.
Okay, an adjunct question. Should the, get reviewed and there's some question about whether the law was followed right or the regulations were followed correctly, and should the Attorney General say, no, it's fine, and you folks disagree, do you have standing to be able to challenge that in court?
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that. I'll tell you that we're not necessarily down that he could be bought sold. Absolutely, but you know what we're doing now is we're working to stop it at every single turn, and we're only, you know, I'd say we're 3 steps ahead, right? But that's probably 10. So you know we're making sure though that we're evaluating every single option as we go through this.
We have a question over here.
I'm Reverend Bonnie Rhodes, and I heard one of you.
I don't think it's wrong.
Something wrong with this? Okay. One of you said the power that you got, you can only do the things in your power. But there's churches in our area and other areas that communicate with me. They are praying for our area, and they're praying for every one of you men. From our mayor, every day he gets prayed for. Chris and Anna, all of you get prayed for every day by people that you don't even know that love God. So there is a power that can help us, and it is God. And He can help us. We can go so far, then we have to depend on Him, and He's going to give you all the power because you're brilliant. You're put there by God, actually. Every one of you, from the mayor on down, you got power, but you have another power over you, and He will quicken you with wisdom by the Spirit. Now, maybe some people don't want to pray. That's okay. But there are people that are praying people around to back you guys up. 100%.
Process. It's a good question, but the process is when it starts out, it's based on the number. Okay, we asked that same question to DGS when we met with them because it all falls under DGS, which is under the governor's office. So the vetting part is they're telling us, and we brought up the part about New Jersey. They say we didn't look at New Jersey. They look at records in Pennsylvania. Okay, and I'm not saying that's right, but that was their answer to us because we asked that question about the vetting process. Now, vetting process is going to continue. I'm not saying this is the process that is in place. Does it need to be looked at? Absolutely, because you know this is our first time here that we sold a major piece of property. This happens frequently. And this gentleman back there points out, he's correct. I mean, maybe the law needs to be changed about the vetting process, which takes effect before you actually approve the bid. But it puts us in a terrible mind that, wait, here's the process. They're telling us this is what we had to do, this is what we have to accept. And it's like, well, what about this? Oh, that's not part of the vetting process. Maybe it should be. So I'm saying, going forward, I mean, that's a conversation we need to have. And actually, Secretary Topper at the meeting said that's a conversation for another issue because we did bring that. I'm saying it's about as far as changing laws because this whole process has been very frustrating, especially, like you say, you should have a common good as well. And many bidding processes is, okay, you're not the highest bidder, but the second bidder or even a third bidder, actually it's higher when you look at the community value and what you can actually do if you have and get the property. Under this process, it's who has the highest number, that's what you get. So, yeah, the process is flawed, but that doesn't help us where we're at this point in the stage. But that definitely needs to be looked at going forward. But it is under DGS. I mean, they have that power.
In the federal government, this is Angelo from NCTV 45. In the federal government, they've investigated, and the word today is collusion.
Yeah.
Okay, this entity attempting to buy YDC lost a bid. It was published in Beaver County Times. Does the state assembly, representatives, senators, can they launch an investigation on if there was any collusion between these offices, Department of General Services, the governor, and why hasn't that held up the bid so that could be thoroughly investigated?
Yeah, it's different at the federal and the state level. The investigatory powers are just significantly different from the federal and the state.
So no?
No. Correct. Yeah, go ahead.
Joe Kaufman.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. What is the time frame? So we're sending letters to the different places, and we know that the possibility of collusion and all these things are. So when can the people expect to hear an answer sometime in this bidding process before they say, oh, well, you've paid your $32,000 and all of this? Or we're going to, can we expect to hear a definite answer from the appropriate authorities before that is taking place?
Yeah, so I don't want to use the word investigative process because it's probably not fair. The approval process that CAIR would need to go through is a 30 to 45 days, I believe is what was presented. 30 to 45 days. I would share with you that with all the information that's there, this one may take longer than that. Most of these things are fairly straightforward. This doesn't seem to be one of those. And that's an understatement, right? After that 30 to 45 days, at that point they have 5 days to pay the remainder to get to the 10%, which would be the $32,000, then 60 days to close. But once that process is done, so our job between now and when that decision is made is to provide as much evidence as humanly possible to the Attorney General and to those organizations in order to understand every single thing that is being done. Every factual piece of data and information that we have. So
can we be confident that they're going to make a decision with the information that we're giving?
He goes, yeah, me neither. I said, yeah, somebody sent me a message and said, well, I didn't know. I mean, I found out from somebody, and we read it in the newspaper, right? And that's how we found that out, and then all this started. Somebody called from the media and talked to the governor's office, and they let them know that CAIR had submitted the paperwork, and they didn't reach out to Representative Senator or Senator Vogel or myself. So those are things that, yeah, thank you, Josh. After we explicitly, not asked, but they agreed to. That's different. We asked and they committed to us that would happen. So I would share with you that our job is to continue to put massive pressure on this situation in order to uncover every bit of data that we can.
We have a question here, sir. Yes, Mary Jabiniak from the Newcastle News. You've said that you've talked to the DGS and to the governor's office. In your talks, do you feel that they're taking these concerns seriously, or are they trying to fluff you off? Are they eager to get the sale complete? What is your feeling?
I feel they are taking it seriously because the phone calls were made directly to the governor's office. They got pressure there. Secretary Topper called each one of us personally after the paperwork was returned last Thursday. I mean, he called himself. He didn't have staff people. I mean, we stressed how important this issue was for us, myself, Senator Rowe, and Representative Bernstein. I said, look, this is a major issue. And I looked right at the governor's person, and she said, we know. We're getting tons of calls to the governor's office. So each and every one of you made those calls, they are reaching that level, because that was her response back to me when I asked it. I said, you're going to be getting more. So I think they are taking it seriously, Mary. Nope. I mean, but they're going this process, and that's what they keep using. You have to do this process. It's, oh, we're here, and it goes here. And I mean, they kept stressing that. So, I mean, we have to keep presenting the facts. If something new comes out, our next letter, which will go to the Attorney General, when it reaches that stage, I mean, which she probably will, and when someone was just saying about, oh, these things, if the Attorney General signs off on it, that means they're okay with it. I mean, we don't have a vote on that. We don't have a vote. This is not a piece of property that the legislature has to vote on to sell. At one time, they used to do that. If it would be a special property, you'd have to, they'd introduce a bill, the House would vote on it, the Senate would vote on it, the governor would have to sign it. This is just DGS property they put out on the market to sell. And that's why we were sort of cut out of the process, because they do this a lot. But this is a major piece of property. It's not like cars you're selling or a lot somewhere. I mean, this is like when they sold the building down in Pittsburgh and things like. I mean, this is a major piece of property, but that's the process. And that's what they told us. But I think they did get the message, because the meeting I thought was good, because we sent the letter Thursday and we met Tuesday afternoon. So I thought.
Question here.
Hi. If I have a business and I declare bankruptcy in Pennsylvania, I can go to New York and open up another one. I can go to New Jersey, open up another one. Now, they've taken their nonprofit away from them in New Jersey. Can they come to Pennsylvania and apply for nonprofit? And in that way, it's going to make them be in good standing. Would it not?
Yeah, I would share, and just to be very honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question. That's something that we can definitely look up and get back to you. I just don't know how that exact nonprofit status works. I'm sorry, I don't know, but I'd be happy to get you that information. I'm sorry.
You have a question over here?
First of all, I want to thank you all for taking out your time and hearing us. One thing I want to ask, I have a lot of property, and for the sale of this for $400,000, would that be assessed for the tax, to be on the tax roll now, to be the same as the taxes for borough, school, and county as for a $400,000 property? Or would it be the appraised value of the $17 million? Does the county only, in the school, only going to get assessed for that $400,000? That's horrible. That's a disgrace.
That's more of a frank question.
Yeah, I can answer that question. When we had two individuals that contacted the township that asked to look at the property. This was back in February. So we showed them around, we brought them to the government center, and one of the questions they asked was, what was the property assessed at? Well, at that time, we found out that it was assessed at $9.6 million. So at the time, speaking with Josh was a big part of that, we felt that, you know, that scared off buyers right away. So we talked to the county, J.R. Hardister, and with his office, and I think with both offices, the property was reassessed at, I believe, $3.3 million, which would bring about $80,000 a year in taxes to the three taxing. It would be the county, the school, and the township. So right now, it is assessed at over $3 million. Now, I don't know what the process is for sure, but they can possibly appeal that. I'm looking at Lou. They can appeal that. Now, whether they would lower it to that amount, I have no idea. You know, the county looks at that. But I know it was reassessed, and it's $3 million, and a for-profit company would bring about $80,000 a year into Lawrence County, Shenango Township, and the Shenango School District. That answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have one more thing. I think it would be good to advertise the contact information for the governor and the other parties that we can make a voice and be heard. Yeah. Other than you guys, you obviously say that your decision can't be a changing decision, but maybe us voices can email, phone, drive them crazy, march on here, and do whatever. I really think we need to be heard. The governor's address, email, everything.
Yeah, I have a cell number.
Make that available, and by the way, it is election year for the governor.
Amen. In regard to that, and I know Representative Sonata, I'm sure he'll put it on his Facebook page. My stuff's on.
I'm particularly interested in this gentleman's knowledge. And now my question is for you. And correct me if I go along here and I'm wrong. But you indicated, your organization's investigation indicated that this is a human services organization. Is that correct? and that can blend into a refugee refugee center. And you surmise this from the experience and the knowledge of your organization. Is this correct? My question to you is, then you have seen similar situations that Lawrence County, Shenango Township is in. And if you've seen those similar situations, can you expand and tell us some of the strategies that were used by those communities to thwart or keep out, or should they have gotten into the community? Can you expand and tell us what's going on?
Well, the microphone.
Give the microphone. Grab the mic.
Situation under President Barack Hussein Obama was that if any county or township tried to block any kind of center for refugees or any other purposes, they were sued by the federal government. And many of them lost over the country. This has gone on all over the country. This is not a local thing.
How many thousands?
Millions. Townships had to pay. Now, we know now, since we have President Donald J. Trump, that the Attorney General is not going to do that. So it's changed the whole ballgame. So now communities can have that fear away, that put away, that they will be sued by the federal government. But these things can be stopped, and in various ways that have been mentioned here. Just want to give you a little more detail on the corporation, HIRA. How HIRA creates income or donations or whatever. I don't know their actual booking system or budgeting system, but what they do is they have schools across the country, and they, under the federal law and the FCC, there is a fund of $2.5 billion every year that goes out to places that are awarded grants, free money, in other words, that you pay for on your cell phone. Your bill on your cell phone has a little place in there where you pay for this $2.5 billion that institutions, schools, and libraries can apply for and receive. HIRA, that's their business. That's their business. So they're very skilled at getting money from the federal government. They've never produced one product, but they're very skilled at getting money from the government.
Okay.
Yes.
Time is of the essence.
Yes.
And we've got to get busy here. I want to know, you've talked to people at the governor's office. You have never talked to the governor. We all know it's going to take the governor to put a stop to this. Can you talk to the governor? Or maybe you can't. We want to know straight from the governor what he's going to do.